Hey YouTube, Rick Marks here, and today I wanted to talk about fear. It's an interesting one, fear, and I've recently been watching more of Myron Golden, and he explains quite an interesting, theory on the topic, and it's around looking at the facts. So I used to have another theory that was around if you're ever in a situation trying to decide, do I want to do this, do I not want to do it? Trying to work out when I'm in a retirement village and I'm old and I'm, looking over my life, will I look back at this time and this decision as a regret for not doing it or a regret for trying? And that's sort of how I've looked at a lot of things, decisions as life's going on sort of thing. Because if you feel like you'll look back and regret not even giving it a try, then what have you got to lose? You may as well give it a try, and even if you fail at it, you can look back and go, well, you gave it a shot, and I get, whereas there's the unknown of, it could have been great, it could have been, the best thing you've ever done. But Myron Golden, in one of his recent videos that I watched, talks about the facts, and then you've got a positive and negative way you can look at it. You can frame it in that sense of looking at the positive side or the negative, and that becomes the focus in your head. And once that becomes the focus in your head, that positive or negative fact will become a positive or negative belief, which then a positive belief is faith and a negative is doubt. That belief then forms a feeling in our heart, which the positive is an anticipation and the negative is anxiety. That will then turn into the function where a positive will give us the power in our hands, or it will make us powerless, as if it's negative. And I thought that was a really interesting view on it, because if we look at things positively, and it's not about necessarily being an optimistic, a pessimist, or any of that sort of thing, it's actually just looking at the facts. The facts are the facts. You can't change the reality. But it's whether or not you look at it from that's not fair, or whatever it is, that spins it on a negative side. So then of course everything as a result is going to be negative. So I thought that was interesting, and linking that with my being in a retirement village, thinking about whether or not you should do something or not do it, helps you to process. So then that leads me into how I deal with fear and stuff. Process. I break it down into bite-sized pieces. I try to, open up the facts and look at what I'm dealing with. And by doing that, I do pen and paper is generally how I operate, old school. But I'm sure there's apps out there as well that can do the same thing. But it's essentially breaking it down and realizing what you actually are fearing. Are you fearing the actual fact, or are you fearing something in your head that's a preconceived idea or a result of a past experience that you've projected onto this and gone, it'll just fail like all the other things? You've already made a decision, but that's not factual. That is based on previous histories, it's based on a number of other elements. And it is quite interesting, because when we meet with somebody, for instance, and someone goes, what are you doing? What do you do for work, for instance? And someone goes, oh, I've just started up a small business. The first thing most people turn around and say, oh, small businesses, 5% of them fail. And they start pulling out all these negative effects of what does happen. I'm not denying the facts, however, it surprises me that more often than not people will always look at the negative elements and be like, oh, it'll be really hard for you to do that job, rather than taking that other spin and being like, well, that's very interesting, tell me more about what you do, how do you do it, and showing an interest. And then that helps to put another log on their fire, and then they feel boosted rather than feeling deflated because you've turned around and pretty much crapped on their dream of whatever they're pursuing, which then doesn't help build a relationship either. So yeah, they're the kind of things that I look at when I'm breaking down my fears. I kind of try to get down to the core, I suppose, components, to realize what is just in my head from previous experience or projected future outcomes, and then looking at the realities, and then looking at how I can navigate those facts, how I can best map the path, and then how I can change my thinking, because more often than not, our head can, determine positive or negative outcomes. We can do it with how we perceive ourselves looking in a mirror. I don't like my hair today, or so we actually start negativizing. For a new word in the dictionary, we look at ourselves in a negative way, and we always will be our worst critic. And that's where, when you can gain control of your mental thinking, and you're able to overcome a lot of that, then you're able to conquer, I guess, those preconceived ideas, those thoughts. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people out there, and this could be you, that are dealing with like clinical mental health and stuff, and then by all means it's worth getting professional help on that. And I am aware that, again, can't just blanket statement everything. But for many of us, it is just us rising above those self-talk. And this is that thing, as a parent, you start to realize that it's what your parents have talked into you, that becomes the backbone for you as a person. So whether you've been encouraged to venture out and try new things, whether you've been encouraged to think big, or whether you were brought up in a home where it was very crush your dreams, you can't do that, that's too hard, you can't go to the moon, whatever, that has built that inner voice in you that has now made it so that it is hard for you to overcome and reprogram that thinking. Doesn't mean you can't, it's just a harder path to take. So that's pretty much how I deal with it. I break it all down into little bite-sized pieces, and I actually just look at the facts, the actual hard evidence. And then from there I work out how I want to view that, positive, negative, and then I build up my makeup for how I'm actually going to move forward, thinking about that. So telling myself, and that's why I like doing it on paper, because once your brain sees it, how it operates, we can accept it. That's how I work anyway. So if I can see it on paper and make sense of it, my brain and everything else can get on board. If it's just a hypothetical in my head that I've done all that same working out in my head, I'm still not convinced. But when I can draw it on paper and I can make sense of it, that's when I can buy in, I suppose. If you've enjoyed the video, comments below. I'd love to have some conversation around how you guys process your fear going into the new year, on the horizons. Start thinking about what you have been holding off on doing. And then ask yourself that question when you're old in a retirement village and you're, unable to sort of work anymore, and you're just sitting in that chair. Will you look back on these events and these decisions as I wish I had, or I'm glad I didn't? If you can say that I'm glad I didn't, hats off to you. More often than not, if we haven't tried something, we will always live with an element of, what if I had have done that? What if somebody, had have just given me that little nudge? So this is your nudge to take that step, give that thing a try in 2024, which is what we're going into. And if you've enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Again, Australian Eastern Standard Time, 9 AM every day, you will be getting a new video. If you've enjoyed it, thumbs up, all the best for the new year, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.